So right now, as the game stands, you're stuck at learning. Anytime that your opponent decides to jump at you, you die almost immediately. You're getting your head conked in, and you're wondering why you aren't successful. Why, even though you have 1,000 hours in the game, you still can't do it. I'm here to help. So with that being said, let's go over a couple of things.
I'm not gonna lie, you need to subscribe now.
Why do you suck at learning? Okay, there's two types of processing. Okay, there's type 1 processing and there's type 2 processing. So when it comes to type 1 processing, type 1 processing is basically stuff that you don't have to think about. So this would be something like breathing, something like eating. You're not necessarily ever thinking about breathing or eating. You kind of just do it. You're not thinking about what it takes in order to chew, right? You're not even thinking about when you wake up in the morning, the fact that you need to breathe, right? You're not really thinking about those things. And then type 2 processing is essentially processing that has to be more thought about. Whether or not you want to go to university, right? Whether or not you decide to go to work, you know what I mean? Whether or not you decide to go to school. These are things that you actually have to actively think about. So, how do we apply this to the game? Now that we're in the game, how do we apply this? Type 1 is essentially your basic movement, right? You know how to move. You're not really thinking about how to move forward and how to move back. But here's the thing, right? Aside from moving up, moving back, jumping forward, everything else is now type 2. Your goal now is to convert all of the things that you're thinking about from type 2, which is things that you have to consciously think about, and convert it over to type 1. So an example of this is that if you suck at anti-airing, right, and you realize like, damn, I'm really being jumped in a lot, right? We now need to convert that from a type 2 thought into a type 1 thought where we no longer need to think about it. Where anytime they touch that sky, we're pressing a button. Anytime they touch that sky, we're in the air, we're anti-airing them, and we're getting punishes. This is how we improve our learning process. So now, while we're playing the game, we no longer have to focus on anti-airing, because now anti-airing is like breathing to us. We no longer have to focus on it. Now we can delegate more of our type 2 focus, which is our conscious focus, right, on things like checking drive rushes, things on buffering our hits, right? So that in the case that we do get it, we get in there and we start our pressure. By doing this consistently and consistently removing things from your type 2 consciousness, you are now making it easier for your type 2 to hyper focus on the things that are more important and a little bit more lethal. So another example of this would be, let's say that we do a little spacing trap, right? Because as of right now, when you're using your spacing traps, right, you're not really thinking about it all too much. You're kind of just pressing the button and you're kind of trying to react, as opposed to it being natural to you. You will struggle a little bit more to use it in a more effective manner. But once it becomes a little bit more of a type 1 thought process, now if it happens, we're immediately ready to punish. If nothing happens, nothing happens. But if it does happen, we are immediately ready to punish it. And that is the key thing, especially when it comes to a lot of things, is that the moment it becomes more type 1, the less so we have to think about it, so we can just kind of do it and not really think about it and immediately go for it in a manner that will allow you to succeed more and more often. This will also go towards dealing with certain aspects of people's gameplay. For instance, some opponents will go for something like this, right? And in the case that we are prepared for our opponent to continue press jab into crouching light kick, crouching medium kick, I'm sorry, what we can start to do is that we can check them the moment they go for that, right? Because now we realize that they're automatically going into this and not really thinking about it, right? They're using a lot of type 1 processing to deal with it. So type 1 processing can also be reorganized and reworded as your autopilot. Okay, now when it comes to your autopilot, that's why you want a particularly strong autopilot, because you want your autopilot to succeed more often than not. Now with that being said, you also have to rely on your type 2, which is conscious thinking, in order to beat out someone who is consciously beating your autopilot. With that being said, I hope that helps you a little bit more and helps you understand what you need to do to stop sucking at learning. With that being said, guys, have a good one, y'all. Peace.